Randy, we've got a problem.
What?
They go.
Reality's here.
But of course,
He's trying to crash the party.
A lot of effort,
Reality?
a lot of resources.
Who let him in?
You're sad that people are mean? Well, I'm sorry. The world isn't one big liberal arts college campus.
I don't have an agenda like I want people to do something. I need them to do something. I want them to avoid irrationality.
I guess what interests me is just like what interests everybody else. It's just sort of what feels real.
That was totally wicked!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Real News. It's been a long weekend, and I know you've been missing us because I have been missing y'all. I say that in all sincerity. I really do, man. This community we're creating out here, trying to do big things with each other, trying to grow and progress with each other. This weekend in particular is a weekend that I needed y'all, and y'all delivered full force. I'm telling you, man. The chat sections that we were in all weekend long, helping us work through some issues and talk about stuff and pour into each other and just like really be a part of this community that we're building right now. I cannot thank y'all enough. I'm jumping right into a deep end style here, man. And 12 people in here right now picking up, moving. I got David Clary. David Clary, buddy. What's up, man? Nice to see you, man. We miss that guy. Really do. Good stuff. Great guy back in the day, Oak Ridge football. He is the everything that's surrounded with that thing. Cody Southard, Kelly Northup. Gabi's in there, Judy's in there, all the Real News folks are in there as well. My name is Mr. Henry, by the way. Going to jump right into Greatest Audience in the Nation Appreciation segment here in just a second. But David Shine Thompson, across the way, sitting over there in East Tennessee, buddy. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing as good as one can be doing on a morning like today.
Yeah.
I'm doing about as good as one can be doing, so I feel great about it. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning to you as well, sir. Quick little note there, top of the description section, you will see, obviously, the link to the Evernote. You're going to see a bunch of other stuff there, ways you can help out and make moves in the state as well. Some other national issues going along with some other petitions you can sign. You're going to see a link to the show notes. Follow all that stuff as well. We may open up the lines today if someone's, actually wanting to do that at the bottom of the hour. I'll think about that depending on where we're on the show. It may just be Sean and I. Entirely, though. Quick, though, here for the Greatest Audience in the Nation Appreciation segment, I wanted to bring this up. An individual that watches this show, I believe it's one of these joint accounts, Norm, Tina, Vaughn, right? I don't know if it's Norm or Tina that's watching this show. I just obviously know it's the last name Vaughn, but someone posted on the account that I believe their daughter Riley is having some problems with the tonsillectomy. I'm fairly certain that's the correct term. I had it pulled up on my Facebook here just a second ago, and then I lost it. Nevertheless, pray for them. All right, Norm, Tina, Vaughn, go check out that Facebook post. First thing listed on their page if you want to. I just saw it scrolling across this morning when I was doing some prep, and I was like, hey, man, bring that prayer concern to the audience here. Seems like kids doing all right, but, I don't know, man. It's just stuff like that happens. Just want to make sure we're looking out for our community here. Also, the Greatest Audience in the Nation Appreciation segment. What this is like, hey, one more time, especially right now. Shine, tell me if I'm wrong in this, buddy, but especially right now. We started this program, Real News, back in the day on the FNA AM side of 92.3 FM, AM 760. Great, fantastic talk radio program out there in the Knoxville area. We started with this with the intention of creating a space where you could have calm, cordial dialogue. So you can have a genuine exchange of ideas with someone that's maybe not like-minded from you, okay? That eventually progressed into where David and I are now, working for the company that we're working for now. Again, clear line of delineation. We do this in our own time. But where we're at right now, David added a fantastic point in the back end. So we want to create a space where we can have open dialogue so that when we disagree, we are having disagreements amongst friends and neighbors and not enemies. So that when we disagree, we're having disagreements amongst friends and not enemies. It's an incredible point that Shine put on the back end of all this. And I'm telling you right now, y'all, that's why we do this segment, The Greatest Audience in the Nation Appreciation, to let us know what you need help with, what you're struggling with. And I'm telling y'all right now, if I could please make it like an honest appeal, today is one of those days where Shine, help me with the show notes section here. I mean, not the show notes, but help me with the comments section of Facebook. Help me with the comments on YouTube. realnewsradio.live is the best way to follow all this stuff as well. I need y'all to drive this conversation, especially with some of the topics we're about to get into. And you know what I'm talking about, okay? This is one of those days where it needs to be community-led, community-driven, because I'm being straight up honest, vulnerability breeding vulnerability. I don't have a lot of expertise in this subject, at least personal experience as to what's going on. Now, granted, I have devoted the entirety of my adult life into working in this realm of criminal justice reform. At my 2.0 year of law school, I started looking at issues of civil asset forfeiture. I was up with the boys, Shine and Eric and Charles and Nathan and all of our boys on the Hill lobbying our legislators to repeal civil asset forfeiture. I've been doing this for a while. I get that side of it. I don't understand the other side of it. I'm not going to pretend that I do. I think that's one thing, though, that we can bring into these conversations is, man, you can try and sympathize, but if you can't empathize, possibly listen to the voice of the victims, possibly listen to the voice of the wounded, of the vulnerable. So anyways, real quick here, man. Again, pray for what's going on. Actually, Norm T. Navon just jumped in the show here. So, hey, what you got, Norm T. Navon? We're just saying I saw that post you did with Riley, praying for Riley, making sure everything's going good over there. Let us know what your concerns are, what you're happy for, businesses that are innovating, anything you need prayer concerns for. Shine, buddy. Let's jump straight into this here, man. First things first. Let's start off with a little bit of good news, man. That first link there in the show notes, greatest audience in the nation there. You'll see it says SpaceX makes history. The YouTube clip, go ahead and pull that up for the audience. We'll just get a quick rundown. It's like, hey, man, we went to space over the weekend, all right? Before we jump in headlong into the other stuff that everybody knows we're going to be talking about, let's go ahead and play that clip for him, man. Let him know what we accomplished over the weekend. Yeah, just play that whole clip for him.
Off from the Kennedy Space Center with 2 Americans on board. It is the first launch from home turf carrying an astronaut in nearly a decade. CBS's Mark Strassman is there.
Samantha, it was something to watch. Launch pad 39A, where Apollo 11 lifted off for the moon, was the stage for another space milestone.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
It was postcard perfect in Florida. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket streaked to the sky and into space history. Never before has a private company launched people into orbit. Cameras on board the Crew Dragon capsule show the 2 astronauts, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, strapped in. It's safe to guess they were smiling.
Falcon stage separation confirmed.
Almost 3 minutes into liftoff, the first stage separated, and the reusable rocket returned to Earth, landing on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. 2 minutes after that, the capsule separated from the rocket's second stage.
Why is this significant as a space milestone?
For multiple reasons. The first and foremost is we're back, baby. You know, people were counting the days since the last time America has sent people to space, from the moment we landed the last space shuttle. That timer has stopped. So America and NASA is back in the business of launching our astronauts to space on our vehicles, and that's fantastic.
Bob Doug, on behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for flying with Falcon 9 today. We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
Today's launch success opens a new space age. Space is now a marketplace, open to competing companies. Tomorrow morning, the Crew Dragon capsule will dock with the International Space Station. How long Behnken and Hurley stay in space is unclear. At least 6 weeks and up to 4 months. And then comes the next SpaceX responsibility, bringing them home safely. President Trump was here to watch in person after the launch. He said, "It's incredible. So proud of the people at NASA. The people at SpaceX have reason to be proud of themselves, too." Samantha?
Hey, there you go, Shine. Look, man, I'm telling you, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I have a bit of personal nostalgia for that. I remember as a kid going to watch, it never really launched, but we went to take trips all the time in Florida. And I say it never really launched because we would always go down to the launch site and see if a rocket would launch off. But it was just like a sort of nostalgic thing for me and my family. Go there and hang out on the back of the station wagon or something, play with the brother and sister, or rather get beat up by the older brother. This is what happened while you're waiting for this massive, rocket ship to launch off, man. And it's America, right? It's an American thing. I don't know. Judy just said on Facebook a second ago, I feel like I'm back in 1968. And then on top of everything that we just faced over the weekend, it's interesting to at least try and put some of that into perspective there. You get what I'm saying, man? So I don't know, Sean. How you feeling about that, though?
I used to, when I was younger, some of y'all know I actually grew up in Florida. Spent some time there until I was about 17. I used to go I lived in Ocala, which is just south of Gainesville. I used to climb up on my roof and watch the space shuttle take off every single time. It was bigger than the moon, even from Ocala. You could see it so well, and I was very nostalgic watching that on Saturday, and it was super exciting. We streamed it on Real News. Lots of people were cheering in the chat room. It was actually a really nice moment in a weekend lacking in nice moments.
Speaking of a weekend lacking in nice moments here, Sean, I'm just going to do this real time with you, buddy. Let me know what you think we should go to next, all right? Should I just go ahead and unload about what my feelings were for the weekend, or should we set a bit of context? I mean, I'm not sure if anyone even needs context at this point, but what do you think, man? Okay. All right, so here's where I'm coming from, all right? We're gonna lay out the rest of this story. I mean, everyone knows what's been going on in Knoxville and Nashville. Everybody knows what's been going on across the country. We all know what happened in D.C. last night. If you don't, we have a bunch of stories about that. My general feeling about this right now, and what I keep coming back to, is it just feels like we're being divided against each other. I'm already seeing it happen in the comment section right now. It feels like we're being divided against each other, and I can't help to think that there's not some kind of spiritual component to that. I honestly believe right now that in spite of everything that you're being shown and everything that you're being told and everything that you know or you think you know about your friends and family, I'm saying right now, I believe that we need to attempt to become ministers of restoration. And I don't say reconciliation. I say ministers of restoration. It was brought to my attention yesterday that this word reconciliation has sort of a connotation to it, an implication almost, that you're trying to reconcile a previous relationship, as you would a husband and wife that had a falling out, or as you would a husband and wife that are on the board of a divorce, say. That's not what we're looking at right now. We're looking at a healing process. I've been told by my other friends that there needs to be a recognition of the power differential between white and black people, the recognition of the power differential of the police state and all the communities that police state affects. This is a ministry of restoration that we're on right now. That's why I'm so upset about what's been happening recently. I felt like we were getting there. We were close. Now, this slow burn that happens in America of the way that you're meant to enact societal change is a very difficult thing for most people to take on. I get that. And during a situation like this, where you have literal lives being lost, Killer Mike said over the weekend that we all watched that 10-minute video as if it was murder porn. I think he's right. When you have a situation like that, waiting for the slow, drawn-out system that we have to enact change doesn't do it for some people. We need restoration and healing. We need to recognize the humanity in our fellow brothers and sisters. We need to recognize the dehumanizing nature of America's past and understand that we do, unfortunately, have something to answer for. We need to listen to the voices of the wounded. Listen to those that are telling you what's happening in their communities. But I'm telling you right now, there is a sense of division going on, and I cannot abide by the destruction that is taking place right now. We're turning on each other. Y'all realize this, right? Yes, there was multiple videos over the weekend. I actually have them posted in the show notes if you're so inquisitive to find it yourself. There's multiple videos over the weekend of police fighting against protesters. That's still division in my book. The division I'm focusing on right now as well is we're turning on each other. The purpose is to cause division. The purpose is to cause that division. We are under attack by what I believe to be outside forces. Now here's a quick caveat. I don't know if those outside forces are, say, paid actors. I don't know if those outside forces are some groups that Trump's labeling Antifa. More on that later on. I don't know if those outside forces are some organization that I have no clue what they're titled. I don't know if those outside forces are something akin to something more spiritual. I just know it doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel natural. I had a great email that our buddy Stacy sent me over the weekend indicating as much. I'm going to get into more of that later on. But the general sense that a lot of people are getting right now is like, look, I have this story. I want to bring it to y'all's attention, just like Stacy brought to our attention over the weekend. He's saying, I don't know if it's true. I don't know how validated it could be, but I'll tell you this much right now. Something feels off about what's happening right now. We're fighting each other in the streets. Y'all see this, right? We're beating each other's faces in for the entire world to watch. I would strongly warn against this, but it's in the show notes if you want to see some of those videos. Big red warning sign right there. I know y'all are seeing the same videos that I am right now. They're forcing us to pick sides. Blue line. Citizens, Democrats, Republicans, conservative, liberal. I don't know what happened. All of it's dehumanizing as far as I'm concerned. The simple fact of the matter that you have to segregate yourself into an identification camp is in and of itself dehumanizing.
The fact that we're being pitted against those that are meant to protect us is dehumanizing. It's demoralizing. It's disheartening. Y'all are seeing this, right? They're forcing us to pick sides. June just said in Facebook, demonic attack. Bro, I'm telling you, they're leading us into a conflict with each other. I honestly believe that we are being coaxed into a conflict with one another. We're fighting each other in the streets. We're turning on each other. Our anger is misdirected. They want a reaction. Who's they, Mr. Henry? I don't know. Does it matter? Does it matter who they is? They desire division. A divided populace is easily controlled, right? What's happening right now in our cities was and is the plan. I'm asking you, I'm begging you right now. I'm literally praying these words. Do not let them win. We are better than this. We are meant for more than this. There is blessings. There are blessings in unity. There is strength in unity. How quickly we went from unity to uncertainty, from uncertainty to seeing our brothers and sisters as untrustworthy. And now we turn on our friends and family. Within 48 to 72 hours, we've all picked a team which we will defend to the death, even though we're not exactly sure what game we're even playing. This is, of course, my assessment as to what's going on in the country right now, and not meant to be any kind of implication or assessment as to what is happening in this chat room right now, because I'm beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm loving it. I'm seeing it. Aside from Albert, buddy, I'm sorry, man. I got to call you right now. You got to calm down with some of that, man. I'm telling you straight up. This is a little bit of what I'm talking about. It's happening in the comment section right now. I'm sorry, man. I'm honestly just sad at this point. I know that we're under attack. I'm asking, yes, fight for what is right. Fight to take the power back, but never turn on your brother. Our sermon this Sunday at church. I'm getting a little bit churchy here for y'all. It is what it is. Blessings through unity. Anytime we scatter as a race, anytime we scatter as a species, humanity itself fails. What happened at Pentecost, and the sermon was on the day of Pentecost, it was talking about this idea of this message of unity, this message of blessings, this message of strength, all being heard in one language, in spite of the fact that there was 15 different nations represented there. 15 different languages spoke there. But what overwhelmed this population at the time, what overwhelmed them was the sense of love, the sense of optimism, and this message of hope that transcends language itself. It transcends all barriers. It transcends all cultures. It transcends even what was happening then and what is happening right now across 15 different cultures, 15 different languages. We were brought into unity with one another. And obviously it was the speaking of tongue things. It was the thing where you could hear other people's languages. But the point is that it was not about making a great tower. It wasn't about making it about ourselves. It was about building a community of unification. In that sense, it was about building a community of God. You don't have to follow me on that. That's not the problem. The point I'm making here is right now, look at what's happening in our society. The spiritual cornerstones of society have been taken away from us. Churches have not met for 4 months. And you don't have to be a religious person. Our buddy Zig from Pennsylvania made a great point the other day. There is this weird sense of inherent or internal yearning to answer that God hole, that God void, that's something bigger than ourselves. Call it a collective consciousness. I don't care what you call it, but whatever you want to call it, that cornerstone in our society, religion, Christianity, Islam, some sense of just general spiritualism. I don't care what you call it. That is gone right now. That unifying element is not there. Yes, people are still meeting through Zoom meetings, but it's not doing. It's not doing it. The church has been taken from us during the shutdown. The spiritual cornerstone of our society has been shut down. People are desperate for direction. Unity is the most beautiful when diversity comes together with a mission. That's exactly what should be happening right now, dude. I'm telling y'all, unity is most beautiful when diversity comes together with a mission. Goodness gracious, man, what kind of mission could we accomplish right now with the diversity on these streets? Have you seen the diversity in some of these videos? I don't focus on what's happening in the videos. Have you seen the diversity of the individuals that are involved in these videos? How beautiful of a thing could that be if we had maintained? Now, I'll end with Martin Luther King here because this is a little bit where I'm at of it. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And I'm stuck with asking one question here, man. And then I want to go to Shine to get him to do a bit of follow-up. The question I'm still left asking here is whether those rioting think that it's going to be easier or harder to convince people that police need less power after this is all over. Whether those causing destruction right now for whatever particular reason, we'll get into the mechanics of how that is and why that is here in just a second. But whether those that are causing destruction right now think that it is going to be easier to convince people that police need less power after this is all done. I'm fairly certain that if you were to poll Americans right after the death of George Floyd, the overwhelming majority, now, of course, I'm overwhelming, I'm saying 60, 70, possibly 80% of people polled, possibly would have said something to the effect of, yeah, that police state it's getting a bit too authoritarian, okay? We need to rein that back some. Let's look at issues of qualified immunity. Let's look at civil asset forfeiture. Let's look at how much allowance we give an officer to effect an arrest for just a misdemeanor, using lethal force to do so. Let's look at some of this stuff and understand the trade-offs. Let's have the conversation. I think the majority of us were there. Now, after this stuff is going on, what do you think that poll would show? It's hypothetical, of course, but think about this in your mind. What do you think the poll would show after 5, 6, 7 solid days of destruction across the United States? They're already telling us. They're already showing us. The White House has already indicated what that is. We already know the answer to that. It's more police power. It's more of an authoritarian state. And Shauna, I want to follow up with you real quick, buddy, because you said something to me over the weekend that you basically answered the question of, look, it doesn't matter how we got here, right? I think that's a lot of people the question they're asking. They're like, how did this all start? How did we get here? But if you could real quick, man, go on that line just a little bit. It doesn't matter how we got here, right?
Well, and I want to be careful how I parse my words here. In a practical matter, not in an emotional or philosophical matter, in a practical matter, someone asked me, how did we get here, in kind of an emotionally charged question this weekend? And my answer, because I'm always thinking practically, right? I'm always trying to discard my ideology and think practically right now, because that seems to be more effective for the times we're in. And I said, I don't know if at the moment it really matters how we got here. We have multiple cities burning down. In my opinion, there's obviously people taking advantage of people's good-natured protesting, I guess. That's the nicest way of saying it. I believe in certain cases we may be under attack, or there may just be a bunch of people who are really upset who have been given permission to burn things down. But either way, it's like we're in a position right now where it doesn't really matter how it happened. We have to stop what's happening right now, because a lot of people are going to get hurt. A lot of people could lose their livelihoods, how they make their money. And we're not solving any problems in a space like that. We're only creating more problems, creating more reasons for people to want to take revenge, when you get caught in that revenge cycle, we've watched other countries do it, right? Over the course of our short life as a country, we've watched other countries in these revenge cycles that go on for decades. And I'm worried that if we don't do something now to stop that, we won't care how this started. If this keeps mushrooming into something bigger, right? I mean, if this keeps happening, people in history will only remember this damage, this pain, this destruction. It won't remember how it started, in my opinion. And I don't know, and I do want to make the caveat, I'm not trying to sound non-empathetic to the people who are trying to be good faith protesters of their government. Because I know people who are trying to be good faith people who are protesting the government. But I'd say at this point, people like that are giving space to something very destructive.
Stacy just said in Facebook, we need to be unified. We need leadership. But at the moment, who can we look to for that? Jonathan said, you do know yesterday was day of Pentecost, right? Norm said, no Jesus equals no peace. I like how it is. No Jesus equals no peace, as in N-O, Jesus equals N-O, peace. And then he says, no Jesus equals no peace, as in K-N-O-W, Jesus equals K-N-O-W, peace. As in knowledge of Jesus equals knowledge of peace. Norm said, pent-up anger is overflowing, but is misplaced. And Jonathan then finalized by saying, I'm far from convinced that violence is pent up, that the violence is pent up anger about racism or police power. Let me go back to what Stacey said a second ago here, though, because that's the same question that I think a lot of people have been posing. He said, to be unified, we need leadership. But at the moment, who can we look to for that? Frankly, dude, here's the difficult thing about that answer, Stacey, because I know what he's hitting on here. There is no way to give an answer to this situation that is going to satisfy everyone. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It's not. And he's dead on right. Frankly speaking, let's be honest here with the Real News audience, man. I haven't seen a lot of Trump over this past weekend. Now the moments that we have seen of Trump, I don't know. Seems like he's trying to do the right thing on one hand, where he's trying to tamp out the violence, he's trying to tamp out the destruction. But at the same time, I don't necessarily know if anyone elected Trump to be a unifier. And at this particular moment, we need a unifier. Here's what I'm saying. I was saying this to my wife literally just before the show started. She's sitting right over there. She can test if she needs to. My call right now is maybe this is the time where we don't rely upon legislators. Maybe this is the time where the only reason that we have legislators up there at all is just to respond on the rare occasions that we need them to. Maybe at this point, though, man, is what I'm saying is we take some drastic steps to realize that possibly we can figure this out for ourselves, possibly for the first time ever. I think this is what Stacey's saying a little bit too. I think Stacey is saying, who do you look for that? Your neighbor. Who do you look to for that? Your church. Who do you look to for that? Your friend down the street, man. A person you haven't had a conversation with a while. Someone that you have not had genuinely heard out before. That's the only way this is going to be solved. The only way this is going to be solved is something that is actually organic.
Man, can I take that a step further, Mr. Henry?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I really feel like it's incumbent upon all of us who are lucid and and not emotionally charged, who are trying to think and trying to do what's best. It's incumbent upon all of us to feel like that responsibility of who do we look to, who should lead us right now. I think we should all view that as our own personal responsibility. Instead of putting someone up on some pedestal and saying they'll save us. I think it's incumbent upon all of us to think of the future of our society and its growth and success as a place for our children and grandchildren to enjoy long after we're gone. We should all see that as our personal responsibility. That especially during a time like this, we should see everything we do as if we don't do our best, society could fall. And I know that's a little dramatic, but like we need to quit putting people up on pedestals and thinking they're going to do everything for us. They're not. I mean, they're only people, just like you and me. You know, they're just people who work with other people. You can be a person who works with other people. You can choose to be encouraging instead of inciting people to anger in a chat room or something like that. You can be the kind of person that goes and cleans up mess. And I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Stop.
Oh, dude, yeah.
We should not even look to the people close to us. Look to yourselves to be a leader and be encouraging.
And think about it this way, man. We are a country of voluntary consent, or at least we're meant to be. That's at least what this grand experiment was always designed to be, was okay, if we get enough people together that can voluntarily consent to be governed in a particular way, it's a pretty interesting social experiment. Now, that kind of goes out the window right now, and I think that's exactly what's being attacked right now, is that some people do not voluntarily consent to what's happening. Some people do not voluntarily consent to the power that the police state currently has. In fact, they're saying that an immoral law is no law at all. As our ancient philosophers have said, all the way into Dr. King himself and up until now. And I think it has to start with each individual doing as much as they can to convince their fellow man what is and is not. Again, you've seen this whole sort of Venn diagram being passed around, okay? Then obviously the overlap area in the middle where there can be a multitude of things that are all true at the same time. We do not need to operate in the world of mutual exclusivity at this point. Multiple things can be true at the same time. You can be worried about the power of the police state and also say that possibly causing violence is wrong. Here's a statement from Tim Burchett, by the way. You can see this in the show notes if you want to. Here's what the quote said. The killing of George Floyd was tragic, unnecessary, and unacceptable. Communities of color, and in fact our entire nation, are right to be angry. And protesting peacefully and lawfully is an appropriate way to express that anger. Rioting, as we've seen across the country in recent days in Nashville tonight, is illegal and unworthy of being called a protest or a rally.
Looting and damaging businesses, destroying private property, vandalizing and burning public buildings are acts that distract from the memory of George Floyd and the ongoing efforts to eliminate racism in our country. Thankfully, he says, and this was written a couple days ago, so few updates here. Thankfully, he says, my hometown of Knoxville, protests yesterday were peaceful, rather than uncontrolled, opportunistic violence and looting. Our country needs to come together in unity and prayer. Now, I say an update because the story at the top of the notes here, first story there, you'll see buildings vandalized in downtown Knoxville. And there is a video of this linked right underneath that if you guys want to see. It's closed circuit footage from this restaurant called Ruby Sunshine right in this area of Market Square, Knoxville. And most people know where that is. If you don't, it's Market Square. I mean, it is what it sounds like. Yeah, go ahead and throw that up if you want, man. Knoxville was indicating that a group of 50 to 100 people broke windows, shot fireworks, threw trash cans, and destroyed a porta potty in downtown Knoxville Saturday night. Now, to be fair, this level of destruction in Knoxville was nowhere near what it was in Nashville. And Sean, I'm not exactly sure how many of those videos you've been playing alongside here of what's been happening in Nashville. We'll get to some of that in just a second. KPD said that the vandalism started in Market Square around 11:30. Now, this was on Saturday night. There was a bit of stuff going on last night as well, too. Quick aside here, I'm starting to think, because my personal assessment of this is still that there's a lot of outside forces at play, a lot of outside groups at play here. And I think what ends up happening, again, man, is that we're stuck in this ideology. We're stuck in this weird warp, man, this distorted reality where I don't know. I know how we got here, but because we're here right now, you are forced to pick a team, and in spite of all logic, sometimes you have to defend that team to the death. You cannot submit an inch. Don't give up anything. And because of that, man, I think some people have ended up defending stances that they don't necessarily believe in, or they certainly know is not logical to defend. And when that happens, you end up actually convincing yourself that some of these actions are okay. And while you're in the midst of it, I think a sense of groupthink ends up taking over. And glass windows are breaking and stuff is flying. And then you're like, I don't know, man, I'm a part of it anyways. I might as well become it. Where initially you probably would not have acted upon that. Now, fast forward, or not fast forward, but move over west a little bit to Nashville here. Nashville's Mayor Cooper has put in an 8 p.m. curfew. And Sean, if you want to, you'll see underneath this story here. If I'm talking about the 8 p.m. curfew, it's Tennessee story. Directly underneath that in the show notes, you'll see video of breaking windows, video beginning of the fire or the Metro City Hall, video of people. Just play a couple of those in the background if you want to, man. And what you're going to see in the background, I'm talking about this next story, is what ended up happening at the Metro Nashville's courthouse, Metro City Hall. Obviously, you see people there starting just by breaking in the windows. You see them just start, throwing Molotov cocktails in there, burning this stuff down. They tore down statues. Damage all across Broadway. We'll see some of the videos coming up here in a second. Now, an 8 p.m. curfew will be in place in Nashville starting yesterday after Mayor Cooper declared a state of emergency after, obviously, rallying in the city devolved into mayhem. This is the Tennesseans coverage. Devolved into mayhem late Saturday night with arson at historic Metro Courthouse and vandalism downtown. Cooper, sitting back in the mayor's office Sunday morning, told the Tennessean that he will take the curfew in his executive order on a day-to-day basis. The National Guard, which he requested to be deployed, Governor Lee acknowledged and acquiesced to, would continue to assist as needed. One more time, let me just make this appeal, okay? I know it may not be a popular opinion today. All I'm saying is the logic of the situation at hand right now necessarily dictates that this kind of action is only going to increase the power of the police state. Please show me, tell me if I'm wrong. I would love to see that. I'm going to hit some Facebook comments here in a second. Tell me I'm wrong with that. I don't think I am. It's the only logical conclusion I can draw. If I jump down to the show notes a little bit here in a second, this is a tweet that Governor Lee sent out on Saturday. Quote, following last night's unlawful incidents in Nashville, the National Guard will remain mobilized in each of our grand divisions until further notice. We believe many who engaged in unlawful acts of violence last night are not from Tennessee. We believe in many who engaged in unlawful acts of violence last night are not from Tennessee. And he says, I've directed the Department of Safety and Homeland Security to investigate further in coordination
with local law enforcement and the TBI. So we got the National Guard out here. We got the TBI out here. We have local law enforcement out here. And you're not telling me that we're actively increasing the power of the police state when the protests are meant to do the very opposite. And the most frustrating thing for me of all of this, man, is that all of us were just there. We were right there. Everybody, dude, 72 hours ago, the whole country we were right there of having that conversation. Qualified immunity, probably a problem. Let's have a conversation about it. Civil asset forfeiture, probably a problem. We should have a conversation about it. The ability to protect individuals by not having them testify in certain circumstances where they might have to otherwise, probably a problem. We should look into it. Being able to effect an arrest of a misdemeanor by using lethal force if you think that they're going to harm someone else in society, probably a problem. We should have a conversation about it. We were right there. Now, none of that matters. None of that matters, man. Here's the other thing. Governor Lee goes on to say, violence and vandalism that occurred this weekend tears at the fabric of our community and stands in stark contrast to effect peaceful protests that are foundational to his country. Dude, 100%. 100%. The protests that stand at the foundation of this country is what should be happening. We just did it a couple months ago. They just happened, dude. Like the coronavirus shutdown thing, which, by the way, I'm not sure what happened to that narrative. I'll move past that quickly. But that narrative's not here anymore. Nevertheless, we were just doing this a couple months back. Everybody was meeting up at the Capitol, man. Nothing was really going wrong. He goes on to say, we will continue to support curfews as they are requested, including the curfew beginning at 8 p.m. Central Time in Nashville tonight. This is obviously being reinforced by the mayor. And I want to go back to focus on one thing that he said a second ago, though. He says, by he, I mean Governor Lee, he said, we believe many who engaged in unlawful acts of violence last night are not from Tennessee. And goodness gracious, man, I wish there was some way I could report on that being true. And I still want to believe that that is true. And Shine has some follow-up commentary here that might make this true. Let me go to a couple different stories and I'll bounce back to Tennessee. Go into a couple national stories here. This is in the headline, the show notes there. National stories. You see it down there. Shine, play this video for him real quick, by the way. It's the first thing on a national story. It says video of some of this looking like a setup. And honestly, Shine, I haven't vetted the language in this, man, so I don't know. It may... Okay, yeah, go ahead and keep it muted if you want to. I'll explain what's happening. That's probably the best way to do it. But go ahead and pull that video and just play it in the background if you want to. Play that while I'm talking. What you're seeing right now on the screen is a video of these folks in Texas. Hey, no, you gotta do better. You heard him there, so you gotta do better. That's my favorite part of the video, by the way. Go check out the video for yourself. They're walking along the path of where protesters are meant to be walking. Clearly, everybody knows that there's a designated path these people are going to be walking down. They walk past the courthouse. I believe it's in downtown Dallas. And there's just, you can see in the video, there's just like a random stack of bricks out there. I mean, I'm a slight conspiracy theorist myself, but dude, y'all tell me why those bricks are there. For what general purpose? In the video, again, we would play this if there wasn't so much cursing, but they say in the video, like, there's no construction going on out here. None of these buildings are being renovated. There's no scaffolding set up, clearly. What are these bricks here for? If not to just say, like, hey, man, you know, if you want to cause some violence, then go ahead and cause some violence. We don't mind. If you want to throw this through a window, go ahead and throw it through a window. We don't mind. Now, again, this is leading slightly into a realm of conspiracy theory, but again, I just have to couple it with a few of the headlines that I'm seeing and trying to make sense of some of this. You see him. He points to the bricks and he says, y'all got to do better than this. You got to do better than this. What he's saying is like, dude, if you're going to entrap me, if you're going to try and pit us against each other, theme of the day is divide and conquer. Theme of the day today is they're pitting us against each other. Right? Y'all see this, right? You see this. We are fighting one another. We see this, right? Minnesota governor, this Breitbart headline, initially said that he estimates 80% of the rioters were from out of state. During a press conference on Saturday, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz stated that his best estimate, he heard that 80% of the people rioting were not from the state of Minnesota. Now, Breitbart was careful to mention that he, citing no official data. Walz explained, I was just... want to just be very clear, he said, as I've said earlier this week, this is not about saying, oh, this isn't us. It's everybody else out there. We understand that there's a catalyst for, that this was Minnesotans and Minnesotans' inability to deal with inequality, inequities, and quite honestly, the racism that has persisted. He's saying, I'm not denying that. He went on to say, but where we're at right now, we're trying to get numbers on it. This is, I will try, and I'm asking the media to help us on this. We're going to start releasing who some of these people are, and be able to start tracing that history and where they're at and what they're doing on the dark web and how they're organizing. He goes on to say that I'm not trying to say that I think our best estimate right now, I heard is about 20% of these people are actually from our state. 80% of these people are outside of our state. Similarly, jumping all over the place here. Similarly, he's a Democrat governor. Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz, Democrat. In Charlotte, they said 70% of the rioters arrested were from out of the state. They were instigators. This is a statement right here from, let's see, Charlotte Mecklenburg Fraternal Order of Police spokesman, Todd Walther. He said that on Thursday night, 70% of those people that were arrested were from out of the city. Not people from Charlotte that's here. This is not Charlotte that's out here. This is not Charlotte that's out here, he said. He said, I'm not saying all the people, but we've got instigators that are coming in from outside. They were coming in from buses out of the state. If you want to go back and look at some of these arrests that were made last night, I can say that probably about 70% of them had out-of-state IDs. They're not coming from Charlotte, he says. Now, this is where I have to pause a little bit. We may hit some Facebook notes, comments here in just a second, because I want to see where y'all at with this. But I desperately want this to be the narrative that I can focus on right now, but I don't know. Because there's a Forbes headline coming right after that saying that the mayor that I just quoted before, or the mayor of, I'm not sure what city this is, St. Paul, the mayor of St. Paul, and a few others now had to start walking back their statements, indicating that it actually looks like the majority of people were from in our state. This is Melvin Carter, the mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota, on Saturday. He said he was wrong when he declared that, quote, every person arrested in violent Minneapolis protests were from out of state. The reversal came after a local news affiliate outlet KARE Care 11 examined data from the county jail's roster and found that nearly all of the people arrested actually were from Minneapolis. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I can't find a narrative that sticks. Let me bring it back to Nashville now, okay? This is where, right after I say this, I'm going to hit the show notes. I'm going to hit the comment section, see where y'all are coming from this. Because it's one thing if it's outside forces. It's one thing if we're pitting us against each other. It's one thing if we're fighting our fellow brothers and sisters. But if we're doing this to ourselves, man, it's a different level of mentality. It's a different level that we've reached, right? I was just telling this to Shine yesterday. One of the most frustrating components of all this, I can't follow the threads quick enough anymore. The source material. I can't follow the point of origination quickly enough to figure out what that next step is going to be. I've always prided myself on an ability to see that next paradigm shift, see what's coming over the hill, and able to understand, like, if I can just break this down enough here and synthesize it well enough, I can get the correct analysis going forward, and I could possibly parse together and piece together a message that will resonate. I don't know, man. Look at this headline right here. It's the bottom of the show notes, Shine. Under the local stories, right before the national stories start. It's WSMV. 28 arrested. This portion of that story is now titled something different. It's going to sound weird. This portion of the story is halfway through in the middle of the thing. You can just search the page for the number 28. But 28 arrested, 30 businesses destroyed, buildings damaged after peaceful protests turned. Now, here's the important part. Metro Nashville police tell News 4 28 people were arrested after Saturday's peaceful protest turned violent. Police say the demonstrators were arrested during the protests or after 10 p.m. Here's the big part. 25 of the 28 protesters arrested are from Tennessee. 21 of them are from Davidson County. Well, 3 of them were from outside of the state. At least 30 businesses and buildings were also damaged after the protest turned violent on Saturday night. 25 of the 28 protesters that were arrested were from Tennessee. 21 of them were from Davidson County. Quick pause here. Then I'm hitting the comment section. I realize that this could have been, okay, if Mr. Henry, if you're talking about a very well-orchestrated machine that can get in and get out, that can coordinate movements, that have walkie-talkies with one another, that are listening to police scanners, like this stuff happens. It goes on, okay? They know what they're doing. I'm not exactly saying that they're militant in their training, but what I am saying is they get it. They know how the game is played. I've seen these videos of these people. They know how to evade arrest. So what I'm saying is this type of statistic does not necessarily mean that there were not organized interferers there. Instigators. People that were just provocateurs and meaning to incite something. Dude, some of these pictures I'm seeing is just like a single individual. The clip we played before of what happened in the Metro courthouse here is literally just a single white dude up there with a massive pole just like smashing out windows. And then that same dude lights something on fire and throws it in the window. One could make the reasonable argument it was that guy that incited the rest of the riots there. Now, granted, there is a video that we played of everyone cheering it once it happened. And I suppose one could say that, look, dude, if you're cheering a building burning down, you might as well be complicit in it. Or at least you're supporting it happening. Sure, granted, valid. But when I read something like this, man, 25, the 28 protesters arrested, I have to think to myself, like, all right, so was this, I don't know, is this what I said before? That we picked teams, and because we picked teams, now we're meant to defend those teams so stringently that we convince ourselves of something so illogical that we're willing to do these acts ourselves? And if that is what's taking place, how do you stop it? I think that's what I go back to before, man. And I know we only have 13 minutes left in the show. Sean and I have to get off right at 10. We got some work stuff we need to do. But I'm going to kick it to the real audience right now, asking how do you stop it? How do you solve it? I personally believe that one of the ways you solve that is with each other. Ministers of restoration. Ministers of restoration. We need restoring, healing, recognize the humanity in one another, recognize the dehumanizing nature of America's past, understand there's power differentials at play here between races, power differentials at play here between the power of the police state and those that are being policed. Understanding also that we need to listen to the voice of the wounded, and at the same time understanding alternatively, in a weird way, society does need protectors. We need first-line defenders. The fact that these people are throwing rocks at fire trucks and ambulances is beyond me. That's absolutely asinine. I don't understand that at all. The people that are coming in to help y'all, you're stopping that? What is this? Last thing I'll mention here, man, just to make sure we're covering a few other national stories. Trump did qualify over the weekend, designating Antifa a terrorist group. Now, some are already saying that I don't know if there's any statute to say that he has the actual authority by way of executive order to designate a domestic organization as a terrorist group. Now, international organizations is one thing, but domestic organization? Well, there you go. Shine just said they did it to Proud Boys. There's some kind of precedent, right?
Who also does not have a central organization. They had chapters, right? It was decentralized, very similar. And I'm not saying it's right, but what I'm saying is no one stopped anybody when they designated the Proud Boys a terrorist organization. And they even kind of denied it, and then it was, but then it was proven that they were operating that off that legal framework. So I mean, anybody who thinks the government doesn't have power to do something, just start burning things down and tell them they won't, okay? Right. I mean, here's the deal. I mean, like, we are only as safe as we make the world, right? If we make the world dangerous, people who don't want their stuff burned down will hire people with guns to protect it. I mean, that's, even if there wasn't a government, there would still be rich people who would give people money to stand around with guns and protect their stuff. That's the case, right? Reality, people, don't think the government can't do something. They can, and they will.
Hey, Sean, do me a favor, man. Right before we hit the comment section here, it's about halfway down in the national story section. It's right after that Mayor Walks Back statement. It's a short little clip there. A short little headline says, Justin Amash proposes ending. I don't want to say the word yet, but proposes ending. It's a link to his Twitter. Go open that up for the audience to see real quick. I'm just going to end this here, and then the last 10 minutes, I'm going to ping off some comments we've had in Facebook. We got a story at the bottom of the show notes about the Supreme Court ruling for churches. I would implore you to go check that out. Justin Amash just says right now, he proposes this week ending qualified immunity. Any of y'all heard this story? Anybody? I mean, be honest with me right now. I would put a lot of money on it right now that, given our audience, we got a great audience here, so I may not want to bet on our audience, but let me bet on the general populace in America. I would put a lot of money on the fact that less than 10% of people have heard that this is going on. I would bet a lot of money that less than 20% of the population even knows what qualified immunity is. If you don't know, qualified immunity is a little bit of what it sounds. It says that police officers, because they operate if they operate within the scope of their employment, they are allowed to do certain things that an average citizen would not be allowed to do. In other words,
We will not hold them legally liable in the same way that we would an average citizen, because an average citizen is not asked to put himself in harm's way every single day as a part of their employment. You know what I'm saying? If I'm out there every single day having to trade blows and trade fires and trade shots with criminals, it's highly likely that if an average citizen was doing that in say a vigilante style, they would be sued a lot. Now, qualified immunity has turned into a bit of a perverse thing where cops can't be sued for anything. And there's a general sense, and then I'm taking some liberties here when I explain it this way, so please give me some allowance and take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But there's a general sense and a policy understanding that qualified immunity essentially makes an officer immune to almost any charge, which is not necessarily true, but that's the way that people think about it. And that's the feeling that people get about it. Qualified immunity is the point that I'm making. It's one of these central components, one of these central tenets that people looked at changing right after George Floyd was killed. Justin Amash proposes over the weekend to do away with that. Anybody heard anything about that? I don't think so. He says, this week I'm ending the qualified immunity. He says, this week I'm introducing the, quote, Ending Qualified Immunity Act to eliminate qualified immunity and restore Americans' ability to obtain relief when police officers violate their constitutionally secured rights. This is what I'm talking about, y'all. These are the conversations we should have been having. Frankly, these are the conversations that are currently going on, but nobody is talking about this stuff anymore because we're all fighting with each other. Are you following me now? We're seeing this, right? We're all pitted against one another, and when this stuff is going on behind the scenes by a great guy like Justin Amash, love him or hate him, it doesn't matter. He scores consistently above 93% every single legislative session for conservative values. One of the most limited government guys that's up there right now. He's actually libertarian as it goes right now. This is a guy that's trying to do something about it. This is a guy that's trying to enact change. These are the conversations we should have been having. Now we're in a very regressive sense going backwards. Comment section. Jonathan said, he labeled Antifa as a terrorist group so they can be prosecuted. Right or wrong, I support that move. Jonathan goes on to say, so who decides what's moral? I think abortion is moral, but it happens. Norm said, Micah 6:8 holds a solution. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. Judy said, this is what I meant when I said it feels like 1968. Oh, that's what she meant. That makes way more sense. Okay. Yeah, that makes way more. I read Judy's comments before when she said, this feels like 1968. She was referencing the riots that happened after the King assassination. Dr. King's assassination. She was referencing those riots, which I know exactly what she's talking about now. I should have put that together. My apologies there, Judy. That's exactly, I should have picked up on that. She's obviously referencing King assassinations, also known as the Holy Week Uprising. It's a wave of civil disturbance that obviously swept through the United States following the assassination of Luther King. I got the notes right here in front of me. April 4th, 1968, the greatest wave of social unrest the United States has experienced since the Civil War. That's what she meant. Norm went on to say, Soros is getting credit for some of all this nonsense, whether he did it or not. You know, he's smiling. Man, that's a great point, Norm. Is it not? Goodness gracious. There's a dark presence behind all this. I think Trump is on the move about to pounce. Sean, go ahead and read some of those YouTube comments if you want to, man. Oh, Sean, sorry, man. My wife just told me she couldn't hear you. I'm sorry about that, man.
That's my fault, guys. Sorry about that. From YouTube, all the civil unrest had to be expected, being forced to stay inside, the disease that must not be named, another death at the hands of those most believe are meant to protect us. Also from YouTube, from Big Plans, thanks for the real news and doing it at a high level. So that's pretty cool. And then from Mixer, if y'all didn't know, we have a Mixer account. There's people watching on there right now. No one knows. I guess no one knew they were going to be shooting rubber bullets. So some of those are out of context, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's commenting and watching on all the various platforms.
Let me end the show with this here too, okay? Because we got, let's call it 3 minutes. Sean and I have to be off right at 10.
Stacy said a second ago, labeling an organization as a terrorist group without due process is a little scary. And I gotta be honest here. Yeah, 100%, Stacy. Okay, 100%. And this kind of puts bookends on the themes for the show today. Those themes being, I don't exactly know, and I'm. This is a phraseology of mine that I get. It's broken record. I hate hearing myself say it. When I say that I'm genuinely being honest about this, I just don't know another way to stress that I'm actually asking a question. I'm not attempting to be rhetorical when I ask, what do those enacting destruction think is going to be accomplished? Do you think it's going to be easier to ask people to have less police power? Do you think it's going to be easier to take power away from the state when there's so much destruction going on? Passing something like this, Stacey's dead on correct. What does Antifa mean to a member of law enforcement? Antifa means anyone that's covering their face. Y'all do realize that 98% of people in these protests are covering their face. We get that. I mean, coronavirus, cover your face. Antifa is now a terrorist organization. Dude, how does law enforcement know what Antifa is? Antifa could be anything right now. And I'm as much against their tactics as anybody else. This is why I'm saying, though, man, back to the message at hand today. I'm making a call one last time. Please, dude, do not give in to the baser nature. Do not give in to what we should have progressed beyond. Do not make this another regressive tendency that we have to work past again. We need to become ministers of restoration, recognizing a power differential between the haves and have-nots, between white and black, between the police state power and those communities that they affect, while also recognizing that, we need the help of individuals to protect our communities. There is a pathway forward. That pathway forward looks like restoration and healing. It looks like recognizing the humanity in another person. Recognize the dehumanizing nature of our past. Listen to the voice of the wounded. Listen to what these communities are telling you right now. But do not, I plead, I beg y'all, do not turn on your brothers. There's a very clear indication right now that we are being coaxed into a conflict. Spread love, positivity, and unity. There are blessings through unity. Anytime we scatter as humanity, humanity itself fails. There is strength in unity. I ask you to hear this message, man. Unity is most beautiful when diversity comes together through a mission. That's the show for today. Signing off a little bit early. By the way, y'all, seriously, love all y'all. Loving each and every one of y'all. Really appreciate the comments in the comments section. I hate that we got to end it. Gotta do what we gotta do. My name's Mr. Henry. Signing off for David Sean Thompson. We'll see y'all tomorrow.